Okay, this video, it's not really a lecture presentation, I guess, corresponds with your first assignment towards your course project. So the week one in your course project description is what this Zoom video corresponds with. So if the assignment description made sense to you, then you don't have to listen to this, but I hope it will help you. And I also think it will help you to see a demonstration of exactly what I'm looking for in terms of what you submit. So just to review the assignment, the first thing that you're going to do and it's what you're going to do for this week, the first thing you're going to do for the project is choose 3 variables on which you are actually going to gather data. So this is not hypothetical, this is real. So you don't want to ask, a question like, if you were going to interview death row inmates, how many victims did you have? Because obviously you're not actually going to be able to obtain that information. So you're going to choose 3 variables on which you will actually gather data. 2 of the 3 variables are independent variables, and you should know what those are. And the third is a dependent variable. I'm very specific in terms of the level of measure. So your dependent variable needs to either be ordinal or interval ratio. And again, you should know that from both methods and your reading. And one of your independent variables should have exactly 3 categories. The second independent variable can be measured however you would like. I gave you some illustrations of the type of data that you might gather. I don't care how you do it. You can do a Facebook survey. You can hand out a survey on campus. You can do something on your own, just gather data, how many jelly beans I eat before I sprint for a minute, and then do that 100 times over the course of a handful of days. You gather data however you want. I'm not picky about the measures. You don't have to find measures from scholarly sources, nothing like that. You just need, for this week, just identify 3 variables on which you are going to gather data. So at this point, you are just selecting the variables. You're not actually gathering data, but you will next week. You're going to enter the variables into SPSS, into the code book, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. What you're going to submit, it should be a very short video done on Zoom, which I showed you how to use in the previous video. The Zoom video should have both audio and video. You're going to explain to me what your independent variables are, 2 of them, what your dependent variable is, 1, and then how you measured all of those, meaning the level of measure, whether it's nominal, ordinal, or interval ratio, and then the measure itself. So if you use age, you could say, I measured age in year, or I will measure age in years. That is an interval ratio level variable. And I'm going to use my own example here in a second. When you do the video, you should basically play the role of a teacher and pretend like me as your audience, that I'm a student or students, and that you're teaching me about what you're doing. So you're not only, don't just tell me, oh, this is age is interval ratio. Tell me how you measured it and what makes it interval ratio. So again, you're explaining it to me in a way that if I was a student, you would be teaching it to me. Your presentation also is going to involve you teaching me how to use SPSS. At this point, just the codebook feature. So now I'm going to go to share screen, and I'm going to show you exactly what I want. Well, actually, before I go to share screen, I'll talk about what I expect from you in your presentation. So if I was a student in the class doing this project, this is the way I would start my Zoom video that I submitted for this assignment. I would say, my first independent variable is political ideology. I measured political ideology at the ordinal level. It's a scale ranging from 1 to 5. 1 is very liberal, 2 is liberal, 3 is moderate, 4 is conservative, and 5 is very conservative. My second independent variable is religion. I measured that, also ordinal level, but it's using 3 categories. Keep in mind the requirement of the assignment. So this is meeting the 3 category requirement. 1 is very religious, 2 is somewhat religious, and 3 is not religious. And because I'm looking at degrees of religiousness, it's an ordinal level variable. Finally, my dependent variable is death penalty attitudes, and that also is an ordinal level measure. Again, keep in mind this is meeting the assignment requirements. Again, it's a Likert scale with 1 is strongly opposed, 2 is opposed, 3 is neutral attitudes toward capital punishment, 4 supports capital punishment, and 5 is strongly supports capital punishment. Now I'm going to show you how to enter these variables into a code book in SPSS. Okay, so I'm going to bring up SPSS. It brings up when you hit blank data set or blank document, it brings this up. It brings you to a data view, but to get to the code book, you're going to want to go to the variable view at the bottom, and then you're going to want to enter first the names of your variables. So political ideology. Oh, whoops. Oh, I don't think it likes the space. Political ideology, religion, and death penalty attitudes. I'm going to take away the decimal points because all of these are in whole numbers. So no, label in a code book just describes what the variable is. So this is a respondent's political view. Religion is degree of religiousness. And then death penalty attitudes is what it sounds like. It's attitudes toward capital punishment. Values. Okay, to get to the values, you just click, and then you're going to click on the ... Political ideology, I said that 1 is very liberal, and then you hit add. 2 is liberal. 3 is moderate. 4 is conservative. And 5 is very conservative. Now, if I did something like age or something like that, that was interval ratio, then I would not have values, because if it was age in years, then the value would just be the age, so I wouldn't have value labels. But for ordinal and nominal level variables, then I would have value labels for all of these. So I'm done, so I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go now to religion. 1 is very religious. 2 is somewhat religious. And 3 is not religious. I'm done, so I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to go to attitudes toward capital punishment. 1 is strongly opposed. Click add. 2 is opposed. 3 neutral. 4 is support. And 5 is strongly support. So now I'm done with that. Oh, whoops, cancel. I'm going to add that. Click OK. Missing, we're not going to worry about that. The columns are fine. The alignment is fine. The measure, we do know what measure this is. All 3 of these are ordinal. If it was nominal, I would click nominal. If it was interval ratio, I would click scale. But all 3 of mine are ordinal, so I'm going to do ordinal. And that's going to be it. So I'm going to save this. I'll do a save as, since this is the first time I've done it. I'm just going to save it to the desktop. And I'll just do statistics course project. And we're just, okay, so let's do save. And this output just tells me that it's saved. I'm not going to save the contents of the output. So the answer to that is no. And when I'm done, I would just close out of this. So I'm going to stop the share now. Okay, so I hope that that made sense to you. That's all you need to do for this week. Identify the variables, the level of measure for the variables, and then specify how you measured it. If you're measuring how you felt, if you're going to sprint 100 times for 1 minute, then you might say, I'm going to measure how I felt after I was done with the sprint. I felt from on a scale of 1 to 5, very bad to very good after each sprint. If that's your dependent variable, then you would say it's an ordinal level variable and here's how I measured it. And then you're going to do the SPSS demonstration just like I did using just the codebook feature. Make sure you save it, and you're going to be using that same SPSS spreadsheet to enter your data, to analyze your data, and to do other things. So this is just the start of a project that you're going to be working on for the next 7 weeks. If you guys have questions, let me know, but hopefully this is pretty self-explanatory. Now that I am done, and when you guys are done with your Zoom video, you're going to click stop recording, and then remember it will automatically go to the Zoom folder in your documents, and then you go to OneDrive to submit this assignment. And again, just let me know if you have questions.